Hey everyone, Jarek the Gaming Dragon here. If you're already subscribed and you haven't clicked that bell, be sure to do that, otherwise YouTube won't tell you that I posted anything. If you haven't subscribed, well, watch this video and maybe consider subscribing if you like it. Prey was a game developed by Human Head Studios under contract for 3D Realms and published by 2K Games that released back in 2006. There seems to be this odd spin on Prey's release where people are saying that no one really played it or heard of it when it came out, but that's not necessarily true. When it came out, it got favorable reviews and was considered a commercial success, selling more than 1 million copies in the first 2 months. That may not seem like a lot by today's standards, but for a new IP back in 2006, that's pretty good. Unfortunately, Prey has become abandonware, and there's no way to obtain it legally for PC. Even if you try to buy a used copy, you're just going to get a Steam code that's already been used. Thankfully, this game is very easy to obtain online. Torrents still have plenty of seeders, and I downloaded mine in 10 minutes. There's also a place called myabandonware.com where you can download it there if you don't want to deal with torrents. And again, before you yell at me for piracy and all that, this game is abandonware, meaning that you cannot buy it. So even if you wanted to give the developers and publishers money, you just can't. Obviously, if you want to buy it on console, it's a bit easier, you're just buying it used, which still means no money is going to the developer or publisher, but hey, you can get it legally for consoles. Prey saw release on many different platforms. The usual Microsoft Windows and Xbox 360, but it also saw releases on Linux, Mac, Symbian, and even Zibo. But it never saw a release on the PlayStation 3 for some odd reason. Now, Prey came out before the launch of the PlayStation 3, but at the same time, the Mac version came out in 2007, and the Linux version came out in 2008, both well after the launch of the PS3, so I'm not sure why it never got ported to the PlayStation 3. Regardless, the best version to play is the PC version, which shouldn't be too much of a surprise. Now, I played it originally on the 360 and just replayed it on PC, and anyone's computer nowadays should be able to run this game. It's also very easy to get running. It works perfectly fine on later versions of Windows. I'm running on Windows 10, and the only workaround you'll have to do is change something in an INI file so that you can run this game in modern resolutions. It doesn't have support for 720p, 1080p, 1440p, and so on. That's expected, those resolutions back then weren't quite the standard. Changing it is super easy though, you just find lines in an INI file that set resolution width, resolution height, and change it to whatever you need. And then there's another line that says set at R mode, you change that to -1, file save, and you got your resolution. If you were ever forced to change your resolution in Doom 3, this should sound very familiar to you, and that's because this game runs on the Doom 3 engine. It is id Tech 4, which automatically gives it a bit of an advantage. That engine was still fairly new at the time and looked better than most other game engines, although it has been heavily modified and looks even better than Doom 3. Needless to say, back in 2006, before the launch of the PS3, this was one of the best looking games out. And it still looks good today. At very minimum, it's passable, but some of the things do stand out. Doom 3's engine has always had incredible lighting, and that still looks great. Graphically, this game stands through the test of time and doesn't look 13 years old. The story is just as good as this game's visuals, if not better. You play as Domasi, more commonly referred to as Tommy in-game. He's a young Cherokee man that's frustrated with life on the reservation, and he wants to take his girlfriend off the reservation, but she's not having it. With that all said, the general stress of life fades away to pure panic and survival mode when you're suddenly forcibly removed by aliens who seem to want to harvest the world. Tommy quickly has a near-death experience, and thanks to his Cherokee past, he's able to learn how to ghost walk, and is able to get aid from his childhood pet, Talon, who was a hawk that passed away when he was a kid. Tommy managed to break out of his restraints, yet Jen, his girlfriend, did not. Now, Tommy never believed in the quote-unquote Cherokee superstitions, and he was only interested in rescuing Jen, although his grandfather is reaffirming that it's his fate to more or less save the world. I'm giving you the very, very brief clip notes because the story has a lot of very interesting twists, especially the one right at the end. I don't want to spoil anything, and the story is written particularly well with very good voice acting. The only thing I can say to you is that if you want to know more about the story, go play the game. I'm not going to be telling you anymore. So what about the gameplay? Well, that is just as good, if not better, than everything else I've already talked about. First, I just need to talk about the general art direction of this game. It's phenomenal. Aliens attempted to harvest you along with plenty of other humans, and this leaves you in an extremely bizarre xenosphere. Not one of the guns you get are traditional firearms. They're all very alien, bizarre, and have split functions that match what they should be doing. Yet at the same time, they don't have weak, squishy, pathetic noises. They have plenty of bass and plenty of screen shake to go along with the corresponding damage that they do. They're all very satisfying to use. And the general map design is just as bizarre, with things like random sphincter doors and vag enemy spawners. With all of that said, as bizarre and alien as all of this is, none of it is designed in a way that's just pure shock value. None of it is cheap, all of it is genuinely interesting and just alien. And speaking of Alien, you have a large variety of enemies to shoot that reminds me more of something like, say, Unreal or Quake. The game never only throws one enemy at you and has you fight that one enemy for the next half an hour or so. It's a constant mix of different enemies that are all satisfying. But what's just as important as the combat are the puzzles in-game. Keep in mind, this game came out in 2006. This game was doing Portal before Portal. To give you an idea of how ahead of the curve this technology was, Valve ended up finding the technology they needed for Portal at a college career fair. Valve back then was not the Valve we have today. Valve today just sits on Steam and doesn't do anything. Valve back then were true innovators. You had the original Half-Life, which changed first-person shooters forever. You had Half-Life 2's Source Engine, which was far more advanced than any other game engine at its time. You had Portal in 2007 making a puzzle game that almost made its own genre. And before Valve did that, you had Prey essentially doing the same thing but with different combat. This wasn't a pure puzzle game, but a lot of the puzzles you see in Portal ended up kind of being very similar in Prey. But Prey came first. The puzzles in Prey are also so natively wound into the game that you don't even realize you're doing a puzzle. There's so much unique stuff in this game. Like I said, you do have the portal technology, but then you have also stuff like being able to shoot something on a wall and revert gravity to facing that direction. And then you have many walkways that literally allow you to walk on walls. Or you have spheres that allow you to walk around a sphere as if that sphere has its own gravity, even though you're in a spaceship that would have gravity on different walls over there. It's very, very confusing, but it's awesome. That's sort of the whole point of it. It was disorienting, but not so disorienting that you would get sick or just be too confused to understand what was going on. The puzzles were understandable, you knew where you needed to go, and you had to figure out how to do it. And some of them were trippy just to be trippy. I still don't understand this hallway, but damn, that's awesome. Prey implemented its gimmicks into its gameplay so well that it feels like a natural progression of the game. It's difficult to complain about Prey because it just doesn't do many things wrong. But I do have a few. I will say one of the parts where you're flying around in a shuttle goes on a little bit too long. And I feel like this is where a lot of people lost interest if they didn't beat the game. Although when I first played this on 360, I found this part to be a lot worse than when I played it on PC. Ultimately, it's almost nitpicking. It could have been better, but it could have been a lot worse, and it overall was still very enjoyable, even through the lowest parts of the game. Oddly enough, what I think hurt Prey the most is that most people end up playing this game on the Xbox 360 instead of PC, and the PC version is simply a lot better. I mean, of course you're going to have the downsides of the 360 version running at a lower resolution and frame rate, but you can still really enjoy games on the 360. I mean, I love The Darkness 1, and that's not really what I'm pointing at here. What I am pointing at is that Prey is a very vertical game, and vertical aiming just doesn't work very well with a controller. With a mouse it feels natural and the aiming was easy, but I remember when I played it on console it was just very awkward, especially the spaceships. You use this shuttle a lot later on in the game, and the controls aren't like say a jet where you're constantly moving forward. No, it's just like a faster version of walking around. You can strafe, backpedal, and do all that, except for now you have enemies coming at you from every angle. You're moving in a 3D plane. You can understand how this would be a little more complicated with a controller. Vertical aiming with a controller is somewhat awkward and not that great. However, with a mouse this felt incredibly intuitive, and I think if more people played this game on PC with mouse aiming instead of on console with controller aiming, they would have liked it more. Now keep in mind, this isn't coming from a PC gamer that just doesn't know how to aim with a controller. I have always played on all platforms. I mean, I put thousands upon thousands of hours into every Halo game. I love Halo. I'm quite accustomed to using a controller. But this isn't really a subjective thing. Mouse aiming is simply better than controllers, especially when it comes to vertical aim. I mean, have you ever tried to kill your teammate in Halo and noticed how hard that is? There's no aim assist there, and that's why it's so difficult. But on PC, if you tried to use aim assist, that would be hacking. Anyway, my main point is that Prey is a fantastic game. By the time you beat it, it feels like you've traveled through this bizarre alien world and feel completely fulfilled. If you want to play it today and get the best experience, I would highly recommend playing it on PC. But now we have to address the elephant in the room. No spoilers, but here's what plays after the credits after you beat the game.
Are you still open?
Eloise?
Greetings, Tommy.
I thought you were dead. How did you escape?
The portal we built worked, but not the way we expected. I was rescued by powerful beings. They've taken notice of you and have sent me to find you.
What are you talking about? No one knows what I did up there.
Not on this world, no, but your actions are well known elsewhere. These beings are very anxious to meet the great Domasi Taudi. Let me introduce you. Come.
Except it never will because it got completely fucked over. Prey 2 was in development hell for a very long time. And when I say Prey 2, I mean Prey 2. I don't mean Prey 2017. These are two totally different projects. Now, there's a lot of different videos talking about the whole development process of Prey 2, so I'm not going to regurgitate all of that. You can go find that stuff everywhere. But what you should know is that there was already a lot of footage of what we possibly were going to get with Prey 2. It was connected to the original game, and now you were going to be a sci-fi bounty hunter, and it looked amazing. According to developers, the game was more or less done and in alpha status. With that said, for a lot of different corporate bullshit reasons and for a lot of different petty reasons, Prey 2 is cancelled and is never going to see the light of day. Instead, what we ended up getting is Prey 2017. The thing that is so insulting about Prey 2017 is that it isn't a love letter or a reboot of the original Prey, it's a love letter to System Shock, a game that's not even in the same genre. Prey 2017 is an immersive sim. Prey 2006 is a first-person shooter. These things are not connected in any way whatsoever, nor should Prey 2017 have the Prey name. Now, I will be the first to say that Prey 2017, for what it does, is a fantastic game, and if you like System Shock, you will love Prey 2017. However, it shouldn't be called Prey, and because of that, I really can't look over it, and I can only feel petty anger towards it. We had to see what looked like was going to be an amazing sequel to a fantastic game get cancelled through corporate bullshit, and then brought back as something completely unrelated in a genre that wasn't even the original game's genre. If you can't see why I'm upset about this, I don't know what to tell you. We're never getting the real Prey sequel, and Prey is never coming back. If they just called Prey 2017 something like Xenoshock, no one would be angry towards it and everyone would love it. They literally slapped the Prey name on this new game for brand recognition, but what's strange about this is that Prey didn't necessarily have very strong brand recognition. How many people in 2017 are sitting there playing the original Prey and going, man, I can't wait for a sequel? It wasn't Half-Life or Doom, it was Prey. So why do you need to piss off what is effectively a cult following? The only thing I can really say out of all of this is fuck Prey 2017 and fuck Bethesda. Sorry to end this video on such a sour note. Thanks to all of you that came over and hung out with me while I streamed this game on Twitch. If you want to go over and give a follow over there and hang out in the future, my Twitch is twitch.tv/Jarek4GamingDragon. You can check the link in the top left. People that subscribe over on Twitch get to see my videos one day ahead of time. Same thing goes for my patrons. If you want to check out my Patreon, it is linked in the bottom right. Thanks all of you for watching, and I will see you next time.